Two kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never-before-seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the YouTube Livey. And first and foremost, okay, the new episode of Nicky and Moose, episode 78, dropped today. The marathon still continues. A whole tribute to Nipsey Hussle, who had passed away, got murdered, unfortunately, on the 31st. So, of course, all this week, you will see Nipsey clips. Mm-hmm. So, get ready for that. The audio came out, so you can hear that. But tomorrow, the video drops, or whenever you watch this, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. The video drops. But if you already heard it, let us know what you thought. I got really good reviews from it so far, so I'm happy about that. Oh, yeah. So far. And then, of course, shout out to everybody who's watching this live. Shout out to everybody who's watching this replay. We appreciate you either or. Let us know what you're doing. Are you live? Put in the comments, put in the chat, I'm live. If you're watching the replay, just say, watching the replay, I'm here. What up? So, Moose, how are we feeling?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. I'm a lot better. I was, I can't say I was sick, but I definitely wasn't feeling my absolute best earlier. But I'm proud of myself. I still got through everything that I had to do. I did my little self-care gym routine and the work and the whole nine. So I'm feeling a lot better now. I just think I might have not been hydrating. Maybe a little too much personal information. I don't know if he was asking about that, but
I mean, maybe somebody was going to worry about that. Like, did you hydrate? How many bottles of water did you have?
Yeah. No, I guess it's important. Drink your water, y'all. It's important. Had this weird headache, and now I'm feeling much better now. Thanks for asking, though. How are you?
I'm good. I don't have a headache. Don't have no health issues. Did crazy work, huh?
So it's the sea moss, isn't it? Sea moss that you
sea moss and black seed oil. That's what I take, and a whole bunch of other things, because I don't eat right, so I have to have all in other stuff. Yeah. You know, so but besides that, I did a crazy work. Shout out to everybody who has the Oculus, right? I did this crazy. Shout out to everybody who listens to EDM. For those who don't know what that means, it's electronic dance music. And if you box to that, like boxing, not like beatbox, it's no joke. And I ain't no punk, but I almost punked out. It was, I did this 2 days in a row. It was, yeah. If you, I am not worried about Mexico no more. I am going to be in shape if I do this every single day. This is crazy. You should try it. I'm just saying.
I was on the.
No, Nicky doesn't dance EDM. No. It's listen. Okay, let me clear that up, because what we're not going to do is say that I do that. That we're not. Okay. What happened?
Nigga just raving at a. Look, that image in my mind is hilarious. Yeah, no, sorry, go for it.
No, let me explain. Okay, so here it is. So the Oculus, right, the Quest 2 or whatever, they have this app called Supernatural. They need to give me a check as much as I tell everybody about this, right? And they have boxing, they have like this wand stuff, and they have meditation. So the boxing, I used to only do hip hop. Why? Because I'm a hip hop fan, right? But then I was like, you know what? Let me go into dance hall. I did dance hall, And that killed me. And I was like, you know what? Let's try EDM, you know? And then I almost died. My arms hurt. I'm sore. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But it is what it is. You know, we're here.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But, you know, what are we talking about today, Moose?
Man, so I was thinking about this today, and I feel like, of course, when we went into the pandemic at the top of 2020. Yeah, I was like, whoa, way back. No,
Right.
when we first got into the pandemic with COVID, everyone was talking about, hey, is your business or your brand free of getting wiped out from something like a global pandemic?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at that time, the big rush was converting a lot of your physical products into digital products, or getting yourself set up to have the right camera or the right lighting or the right sound. Like, there were many different variations and changes that people had to make to go from being a physical, say, in-store type of business, or just a business that was in general operating in what the world was accustomed to at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to make a lot of adjustments really, really quick. And some people couldn't really make those transitions, whether it be because there were so many people trying to make the same change at the same time, or they simply lacked the technical skills to make that adjustment. So I think at that time, the conversation was very almost motivating for a lot of people. Like, it was cool to be talked about. But quite frankly, you are never in a position to be pandemic proof, recession proof, or anything proof if you don't do something during these types of times when nothing is going on, or when things are somewhat normal. Of course, there are crazy things going on around the world to some extent, but this is the time that you start having some conversations around, hey, what were to happen if we were to lose our biggest client? Would we still be in business? Hey, what were to happen if, something drastic like the pandemic happens again and we had to shut down?
Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is focus on me, because I don't know what just happened. Is it me? Y'all let me know. Moose, I don't know where you at, but we're here. First and foremost, as I wait for my guy to come back, do me a favor. Where are you watching this from? Okay, let's start there. Where are you watching this from? As he gets his technical issues, you know how it is. You know how these live shows go. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but we're here regardless. All right, so drop where you're from. Let me make sure it's not me. Hold up. Let me make sure it's not me. No, it's not me. You know how you can always tell if your internet's good or not? You go to Facebook. You feel me? Go to Facebook. Facebook does give me a check. I'm not even gonna say it doesn't. But so hold on. Thought it was my phone. Okay, so it wasn't. So it's not me. I just want to make sure it's not me. Hold up. We're getting him back. Wait for a minute. I apologize. EDM. What? Y'all bugging. I love y'all so much. Anyways, all right. Rock Hill, South Carolina. Hold on. Let me put some of these up. Drop where y'all from while we're waiting. Right. Virginia in the building. Mo, you got an interesting joint. Yeah, you got an interesting profile. It looks very dramatic. It looks absolutely dramatic. I just want to put that out there. That's a good picture. Not even cracking on you. That's a good picture. All right. You feel so. Shout out to Two Frames Media. So if you ever see this, right? My man is counting how many times I say you feel me. I tend to say it a lot more on Instagram. But, I think we're back. Are we back?
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. I thought that might have been you, because I was like still on. I was hearing you,
Nope.
And my speed is phenomenal. Like I just checked my speed. I'm like, wow, that's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, anyway, let's get back into it. What's the last thing you heard?
I don't remember.
Good topic.
I don't remember.
I'm really excited to talk about this. Okay. No, but basically, I just think that the idea of us making sure that we can survive through tough seasons or tough times in our business, the only way that we're able to successfully do something like that is that we have to have these conversations when everything is fine. Because like that can bring some level of stress. Like, dang, why am I trying to have these negative thoughts about possibly losing everything? It's not. We're not necessarily being negative, but it's about, hey, can we pressure test our business? That's one side of it. And the second side of it is, what are we doing to make sure that we are in position for where the future is headed, right? There's a lot of talks for NFTs, Web3, just digitizing your business. There's so many things that we can talk about. But in short, the idea of putting ourselves in a position that regardless of what happens in the world, whether it's a crazy event or just the future and the expansion of what we're doing now, are we in position and prepared to do that? So just wanted to have a conversation around that, Nix, and kind of see what do you do? And I got a couple of things that I wanted to speak to and share as well. But yeah, let me know what are you doing to put yourself in position for the future? And what do you do from time to time to kind of like pressure test yourself or your stuff to make sure that things can survive the test of time?
I think I don't necessarily worry about different, I call it waves, right? So regardless if there's going to be a pandemic, a recession, anything like that, I don't necessarily worry about it too much just because I concentrate more on making the brand a need and not a want, right? So no matter what would happen as far as people unfortunately losing some jobs, maybe like let's say only confined to their crib, things like that. The brand that I've built is something that people will always watch and will always need to learn. And so it's important to position your brand more into a need in somebody's life, like an essential need. I've learned that definitely in the pandemic. Like, we stopped a lot of things. Certain brands really took a huge hit because it wasn't an essential need. Like, we could do without during this time period, right? What was it? For example, except for after, not everybody was buying Rollies. We weren't going nowhere. No one was buying Rollies. Right. No one was buying Louis. No one was stocking up on it. Like, yo, okay, I could buy it all now. No, that's a want, That's not necessarily a need, especially when you're at the crib doing nothing. You feel me? No one's looking at you. Whoop-de-woo. So positioning my brand and what we have as more of a need is my primary thing. Now, from a future standpoint, I go with where is the attention going? So of course you mentioned NFTs, what is certain tech situations happening, because tech isn't going anywhere, right? Tech is just growing and growing. I'm looking at, AR situations, for those people who don't know what that means, as augmented reality, looking into that where people is still very ahead. So, how do you tap in the right time with that? So just certain trends as far as they may be making a little noise right now, but it's probably because timing, it's probably going to work out another couple of years or so. And so that's mainly kind of the things that, I think
I
of
like
and I
that.
do.
What do you mean by, like, when you say making the brand a need and not a want? So how would someone do that? Like, would you say cover the basics? Like, I think one of my favorite things that I've seen you do is you cover some of the most simple features. For example, like the one that comes to mind is how to quickly archive some of your older posts.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of the most simple things, right? It didn't require a video crew. It didn't require a whole ton of editing. I imagine it probably took you maybe 10 minutes at most to make, but
Yeah.
it was very functional in terms of its use. So when you say become a need and not a want, is that an indicator for many businesses and brands to cover the basics or the fundamentals of whatever industry or niche that they're in? Or does that mean, something else?
No, it's not necessarily going through the basics, right? That's more of, and I went over it yesterday, like consumable content, right? Things that no matter what level people are in, if they're interested in your industry, you have to create consumable content for like a level 0 all the way up to whatever level that you're in, right? So that's mainly for that. What I mainly mean for a need is understanding what people need in this season, right? So if you think from a very basic level, food, shelter, that's a need, right? Can't live without it. Now, what ends up being a need now is social media. Certain people need that sort of entertainment, motivation, education in their lives. We're acting like crackheads when it's down. So it's a need, right? But also with certain people, when it came to pandemic, when certain people couldn't go outside, when businesses were closing, it was so essential to have your business online. And so you're going to have to tap in to understanding how to create content to bring awareness to your brand that may just be starting right now, or who needs more awareness, or who needs to monetize during this time because I can't necessarily go outside, right? Also with the talks of recession, right? It still becomes a need because you should be creating a brand that isn't touched necessarily through inflation and stocks going down and things like that. Like, you're still making money somehow, some way. So you're going to need to tap in to the certain things that I do, the certain things that we do together, because these are all nowadays essential. Now, if this was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, maybe not so much. But how things have evolved to where it is strictly on a content basis. Without content, you don't necessarily have a brand, right? CNN is not just on your TV anymore. CNN is on social media. CNN has a website and producing content on a regular basis. So it becomes more when you look at what's happening now and really seeing what people need.
That's good. I like that. One of the cheat codes, and I'll cover a few of them, right? Because I actually am pretty fascinated with this idea, because I've had to deal with it, I want to say at least twice in my own kind of like personal career, where the move that I made during one season is what helped me survive the shakeup, right? It was like, oh, had you not done that, man, God knows what would have happened, had you just been like, oh no, I'm good right here. Like, I like what I'm doing, or this is great, or this is how I want to continue to do it. It's always good to kind of pressure test, right? And that's why I start there first and then say also go into the future. So here's one thing that I think everyone should do at least once a year, right? Is to track the market cap of your industry, right? And I know that that may sound real fancy, but it's not. You can simply say, like, for example, you might say, for myself, right? I'm in the, let's say, professional development, training and professional development world. You could simply just Google that and say, what is the market cap of the professional development industry? Which is really just a summary of what is the total worth and the money that's being spent on a yearly basis in the industry that you're in. And if you track that on an annual basis, you'll see year to year, is your market cap or the market cap of your industry, is it declining? Is it going down? Or is it going up? All right. So on a very simple level, one of the first things that you can do is to track the market cap of your industry, and it'll show you some trends as to what's happening, right? It should at least raise a flag for you. And I'm not saying that if your market cap of the industry is going down, then that means you're bound to go out of business or it's no longer worth being in that space. But it should at least give you an indicator that, hey, you probably need to do a little bit of digging. Maybe you've had your head down too much working in the business that you haven't had an opportunity to look up and see, okay, when's the next exit? Or where are we really going? Or what's changing, right? So very simple, looking at the market cap, I think that's going to give you an indicator to know, okay, what's happening? Can I make some adjustments? Do I need to prepare myself for anything? Or what's going on? So that's a great way to do it. The second thing is, and now I'll jump into the future, at least one of the things that I'm thinking about heavily and talking to a lot of people about, or a few people, I should say, not a lot, but talking to a few people about and looking to utilize and build resources in that space is to, how can I build something that requires and creates higher paying jobs? Here's what I mean by that. Usually as minority and Black and brown people or people who start businesses of that community, we typically create jobs that are, I don't want to say low paying jobs, but they're minimal paying jobs, right? It could be a job around, administrative work, or they just fill those essential needs that Nicky spoke to. But very few of us are able to build jobs or create jobs through what we're doing that require you to hire people that are engineers, right? Lawyers, or people in some of these like futuristic concepts that we talked about. So whether it be blockchain or AR, like in any one of those things. So imagine that you create something that calls on you or puts you in a position that you have to hire people that are making well over 200 grand a year. That's an interesting scenario. So here's why I'm saying that you should think about incorporating some of these elements into your business. Number one, the caliber of person that you attract when that is the salary that you're offering someone is totally different than, of course, when you're offering a salary that's $50,000 a year, right? It's a totally different concept. On top of that, which is what I'm even most obsessed with, we're now able to put our people in positions that really help them to stay ahead, which is the greatest thing, right? It's like you no longer are just creating a hamster wheel where people can just literally, they're just surviving, but they're not jumping ahead. So now my mind is on how can I create infrastructure and technology, specifically technology, where I'm forced to hire a higher caliber team member or person to keep those things in place rather than, someone who can just keep up our favorite thing, a funnel, or someone who can just keep up, the screen switched. I wanted to see your reaction to that. Like a website. So it's like, I'm thinking about that because of those two things. And also, if you think about it, there's never a shortage of workers when it comes to that. It's competitive.
Right.
It's competitive. Like, yeah, you might get to a point where you're competing over the best developers with Apple, Google, Microsoft, and some of these big players. So you're competing for talent, but there's never a shortage. Like when people are saying, oh, the big resignation that's happening right now, people are walking out of their jobs, or they don't want to work. Well, you can't really blame them. For some people, and I know this because I'm involved in a business where I'm consistently hiring and interviewing people. For some people, their argument is, if I have to pay more for my child's daycare than what I'm making at work,
right,
why go to work? So that raises that first big question, right? Well, if we created jobs that pay people at what's considered, I don't know, the top 10 or 20% of America, or maybe even higher, then you're not choosing between childcare and work. It's like, oh, it's a no-brainer. I'm creating a future for my child, so I'll go to work. So yeah, that's where my mind has been, just because I'm like really practically on the ground with some of these things now, that I'm starting to think about it from a different viewpoint. And I'm like, yeah, as much as some of what we're doing or some of what is popular is fun, we joked around and we said impact isn't impacting like it used to, because just the industry is changing a little bit. So from my standpoint, that's the one thing that I'm looking at. It's like, okay, how can we go away from minimum wage jobs or creating minimum wage jobs, challenging ourselves to create higher paying jobs for people that, one, attract higher and greater quality candidates for us. We put those people in positions that they can grow and develop. And then at the same time, we're future proofing our business, because now we're jumping ahead, right? Like we're going into that space. And yeah, for sure. I agree with that. The incubators and all that stuff is awesome because it helps minorities develop and grow. Okay.
Incubators is a word that keeps coming up, by the way. I've realized this. I don't know why. But
yeah.
anyways,
Well, also, I believe NIP had something in place that was around that. There was, I forget what it was. I know he had a partner that was in real estate, and he and his partner were building a building or putting something together where people from the neighborhood can come and learn about music and technology.
Oh, you mean
and like
Vector? Is it Vector 90?
Yeah.
With
Exactly.
With the STEM incubator.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So NIP had that in place, which is so dope, right? Because you're taking people who traditionally can only land minimal wage jobs or have to take the wrong route to survive or get ahead, and almost feels like they're playing the lottery, to instead jumping in a space where you're helping them develop and grow. And because you're from their background or their space, you're helping them to really see themselves in those positions, and then they can go out there and land those types of jobs that change the trajectory of a family, forever. So yeah, that is definitely a hot spot.
Yeah, everybody's
just like a different type of impact too.
Everybody's like, Vector 90. I know. We got it.
Yeah,
Shout out to
Vector
all the
90.
people.
There it is.
They always got our backs. They're like, when we're stumped, they're like, no, it's this one. I still like the Arkansas one. They had your back on that one.
Oh, snap. I said it with so much pride too.
Oh, you said it confidently. What's up, Arkansas?
Arkansas in the house? Yeah.
What?
I think that was the time when like something happened either with your camera or the internet.
Happened.
Something happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing. I had to like
I had to
come off the fly. I was like, what? Dang. She's like, did you say Arkansas? Like, yeah, what's wrong with that? It's not Arkansas? I'm like, dang, that does sound more right than what I said. Oh, shoot.
This is where we got to get him traveling again. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I've never been to Arkansas, though. Ever.
I haven't either, but I know how to say it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Hold up. Ronald said, what is practical to a mother or parents who can't afford daycare to make that type of money? How do they afford to transition those skills? So the interesting thing is, when it comes to training, there are so many resources that offer training, right? So it's yes, I understand the reason for having that challenge. It's a valid reason, but it's never because there's a lack of training in developing those types of skills that can eventually put them in a place to compete for higher paying jobs. You know, like Carl and I were messing with Coursera. And between a 7-day free trial and like a $50 membership, you can get access to some of the best like material that's out on the internet. Quite frankly, like you got some people who teach at some of the best universities that have courses on this platform for only $50 a month. That's not even like one of 1% of what you would pay for tuition, let's say at a Harvard or a Yale or a Columbia. So as far as the information being out there, it's available. I think we should do a better job as society looking for it or staying consistent to utilize it. But I'm speaking more to the role of the entrepreneur or the role of the business owner to create better jobs or higher paying jobs that you can hire folks from the community into those positions so that they can generate more income and they're not having to fight between childcare, work, or stay home. Right? Like that's the battle that ultimately I want us to delete. Heck, I want us to get to a point where we can build companies and we're not so much. And I made this mistake, like in all transparency, when I was first growing through entrepreneurship or just growing through business, I don't even like to use that word anymore. But when I was just first growing through business, so much of my energy was focused on, man, how can I get to a place where I no longer have to work? Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, that defeats the purpose of building something phenomenal. It's like, so what do you mean? You're going to build something awesome and just abandon it? It's like, what? Why do you think God is going to give you the energy or the resources or the ideas to do that? Just abandon the ship, pretty much. It was just such like a poor way of thinking. But now I'm at a point where I love the work, I enjoy the work, and I realized that I was only trying to run away from work because I didn't know that there is such a thing as doing work that's purposeful or work that you truly enjoy or work with people that you love and have fun with that you want to be around. So I'm like, heck yeah, why not build a company or an infrastructure that can have daycare on the spot? Like there's daycare at the company so that you can take your breaks with your child and have lunch with them. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's just bringing it all. And it's really like a community-based mindset that takes a lot of the reasons for why somebody may not see value in working for a company and instead want to work for themselves. Because we've covered this on a live some time back, the number of businesses or the number of people who've started businesses or registered business this year went up nearly double.
Double?
Doubled. So like, let's say if the average was 2.5 million new businesses are registered every year, in 2021, that number was like 5 million. So what does that mean to me? A lot of people are leaving the job market and they're like, screw that. Let me just work for myself. Even if I have to be a contractor or something simple, but not tied to a consistent job, they'd rather bet on themselves than work for an employer. Because we as business owners or business builders, we're not thinking about building great jobs, but we didn't make that. Like the word job is probably the worst branded word in the history, or not in the history. That sounds too dramatic because I know somebody's going to come out here.
Very dramatic.
Well, no, I just know that you got to be careful. Somebody's going to come and compare it to be like, why are you saying it's worse than that? It's a pretty bad branded word though. Like when you think of like the brand of the word job, it's like, oh, just over broke. You know, like there's no cool hip branding to the idea of a job because there aren't companies out there that you would be so interested or inclined to work with that make you feel like you're an owner. Mm-hmm. That's just my 2 cents. So like, my point is a lot of the ways that I'm thinking about future-proofing what we're doing is to rely more on technology and truly build infrastructures that empower people to want to work with us because they don't feel like they're an employee, but they're empowered as owners in their own right. So a lot of these things exist in a central location. And so you're no longer feeling like, I don't want to be stuck here. This place sucks, or I'm bored, or like, there's no flexibility. So that's my thought. And it's so possible when you think about putting great technology in place that can do a lot of the boring kind of low wage work. And then again, putting yourself in position to train people to get to that higher level and then hire them for higher paying wages.
You deep for no reason. Just put that out there.
Yeah, but you know what? I thought about it and I was like, I went through a season where I was like forcefully trying to simplify myself to not appear deep. But then I was like, it's easier for me to just be who I am than to try and simplify what I really think about. Because I'm like, I've seen some of the stuff that I've been thinking through and I'm like, nah, that's probably too deep. And then it's introduced through another method. And I'm like, dang, you sat on something that you saw through your intuition or you sensed because you didn't want to appear too smart. It's like the kid in school who can, do really well on exams and instead they choose to fail so people don't think they're so smart. And it's like, well, why would you do that? So for me, I'm starting to like get to that place where I'm like, I'll simplify the deepness, but I can't stop myself from what I'm seeing as it relates to trends and like where the world is heading, because I think as it relates to people in business, I have a good feel for that. And I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't like dumb myself down because I understand it may not be like the most interesting topic to talk about, at least on an extensive note or on a consistent basis. But I do think it's important for us to really like have these dialogues because there's a lot of our people who are in these positions and they're like, yeah, I'm not happy or I don't see the reason or the path to go to work. And they're relying on unemployment for that. And it's like, yeah, no, we're paying for it now with this inflation. We talked about that too a little bit.
Yeah. I want to get a
Crazy.
house for not $700 of my life. give me back. Even though it's great when you have a house, but when you try and buy a house, it's a little tricky. My bad.
Yeah, a lot of people like ask me that question from time to time, like, yo, you've been talking about wanting to buy your mom a house for like 3 years now. Where you at with that process? I said, bro,
Inflation.
we live in New York. I said, bro, we live in New York. I don't live in a smaller kind of Midwest or just middle of the country type state where you can buy a home for $100,000. It's like, I live in New York. I'm actually trying to purchase a home in the area that she wants to live. So that goal is a little extensive, it's kind of far, but and also 3 years, I think that's a part of like, maybe on social media that might feel like, oh, that's been a minute, but I feel like 3 years on a journey for something of that magnitude is it's actually not that long after all. Yeah.
Take your time with the house. Take your time. Don't listen to nobody. Take your time. That's all I'm gonna say. Take your time, because I definitely didn't take my time.
Give me some more insight about just positioning yourself for the future a little bit more. Like from a branding standpoint, is there anything related to messages that we should be changing or thinking about? Like I'm noticing that overall, we as a culture and a society, we're becoming a lot more understanding to, let's say, things like mental health or religious beliefs and sexuality, and I'm not trying to mix this in because it's not what we're about, but I'm just saying as a society, we're being more conscious and somewhat understanding to it, depending on where you are in the country, but we're mindful of it. So like, do you think changing your messaging from a branding standpoint is important to evolution or to future-proofing your brand? Because if you have, like we've seen with, what's the pancake mix? I think Aunt Jemima or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So there was like a period of time where a lot of those brands were starting to like change their logo or change their name, or you know what I'm saying? And it's like
they
that to me.
They changed their whole bottle. Yep, they changed the whole bottle, look, everything. Yep.
So would like, what's your take on that? Is that a part of future proofing a brand, looking at messaging, looking at images, kind of taking a deeper look into those things?
I mean, it's hard to, because I don't want people to always, when they see something, change their message, right? Now, when you look at the Aunt Your Mama thing, yeah, that's a little tricky. When people started changing their NFL names, I mean, but that goes way, way back in like just time and just how we evolved as far as with rights and being inclusive, all that stuff. Now, I would really like steer clear of changing your message unless I really can't speak on that because I'm not big on changing your message unless your whole brand changes. You feel me? Like, I don't think we're in a time where we have to worry about not including people. I think we're in a great time where we're understanding all the different, groups and cultures and ethnicities and sexualities. Like, there may be one or two new things here and there, but I think our messaging compared to back in the day is a little bit more open than before, So, yeah, I couldn't intelligently speak on future-proofing your message from that standpoint.
Yeah, I do. I will say, and I'm in agreement with that because you got to think like one of the selling points or one of the things that give credibility is knowing that you have believed or fought for a specific mission or a group of people for such a long period of time. So when we hear, some of the more favorable brands, they want to let you know, like we're celebrating our 50-year anniversary, right? Like that's like, oh wow, like off the rip, you give them credibility and respect because they've been doing it for 50 years. So of course, when you go through so many radical changes, you're almost stripping away from the thing that you need to get that credibility and respect. But at the same time, I think the only difference is the one thing to do is try not to bash other cultures or things that you don't believe in. Right? Like I think there's a fine line for that. You got to be so careful, especially in today's world where so many people have opinions and they want to try to pull you into the fire. Say, oh, you're not going to talk about that? What's your take on this? And they're almost trying to get a reaction out of you because they know that someone reacting creates more attention or something to talk about. So I do feel that it is important that even if you're not going to change your messaging, as Nicky said, like maybe that's not the move, but be mindful to bash other people as a way to make yourself climb to the top. Because it's like at some point, somebody's always looked at like, but that was a classless move. Like, I don't know that you necessarily needed to tear someone down or talk about why they're not, a better business or a better company or a better brand so that you can climb higher to the top. It's like, let your work speak for itself, but don't go out bashing other people. I don't know your thoughts on that, because again, I know it's a fine line between, well, what do you stand for? What do you represent? How are you going to approve of something else? But it's one of those things that I think is just a matter of time before it comes back and haunts you again. And I'm talking through the lens of the world that we live in today, not so much 20 or 30 years ago where some of that stuff was like, it's cool. We kind of sweep it under the rug because it's a private world.
Maybe I just live under a rock sometimes, but I don't really see that an issue no more. I don't think people bash. Now, people have opinions, but I don't think people make brands in order to bash people. I haven't. I at least I don't. I don't associate myself or consume anything that is of like that. So, so I mean, and the people who watch this, I don't think they do that either. But I mean, stay clear from it, but I don't see that as much. I see a lot of critics as far as like everybody got an opinion. Everybody got something to say. When something goes crazy, you know, they're bashing the first person they can, you know. But that's not necessarily a brand. That's an opinion. That's a person. No. That's a regular smegular person going, this is wrong, you're trash. You know, that's why I'm like, I don't think people are making brands like that.
What's interesting is I'm actually seeing people build, it's like review brands, right? Like people who make review videos, right? But even in addition to that, from time to time, at least I see. I don't want to speak to the scenario by like using names, but I do remember specifically a time when someone was trying to show why this person is incredible, or you're trying to like bash their authority or what they are about, so that you can kind of put yourself further ahead. So it's like, that's kind of the part that I'm speaking to more specifically, because it's like people they try to get momentum from that because they know that attention is a valuable commodity nonetheless. Like at the end of the day, it's why certain brands and influencers make the kind of money that they make. It's because they're able to command the attention of people. And it's like, I do feel at some point that can get a little crazy, right? Where someone is like, oh, maybe my views are dipping or whatever. I'm going to use this attention to drive traffic, which can get a little bit crazy. But anyway, last thing I want to ask you.
Oh, I was going to say, like, there's going to be those reaction channels, you know, that do great and things like that. But I don't necessarily, the reaction channels are the reaction channels. They're known for that, right? And it goes based off trying to be more like a more organic vibe of like TMZ, pretty much, right? But if we see how some of these reactions, some of these gossip people, like the Cardi B trial, Cardi B just won a case against a blogger who was talking crap about her, and it was like a $4 million win.
Oh wow, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like, you could talk your crap, you can create a channel and do things. If it goes from a negative standpoint and speaks falsely about a brand, I forgot what word it is. It's like starts with a D or something, but
defamation.
Yep. You get hit with that, and that changed the game when it comes to these gossip sites or these gossip channels and things like that. You can't just say whatever you want to say. You will get hit with a lawsuit, and she got hit with a $4 million lawsuit and flat out said, yo, I can't pay that. She's a YouTube channel. She gets crazy. Paid a lot, but she don't get paid that much.
Right. So, wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So she actually sued her for a comment that she made.
She did it for years. She was talking crap about Cardi B and Offset and things like that. It was a huge story. Like, it's never really been done to where a public figure, sued like one of these sites or one of these channels for that much money. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like it may have a run. Everything has a run, but for me to look at a brand serious, I look at it like from longevity. You're a trend if you're, Tasha K. Thank you for saying that. I look at it like you're a trend, you're something that's right now, and there's a lot of things that are right now. A lot of things that are one-hit wonders, depending on your definition of a one-hit wonder. Like there's a lot of those, this is at the moment situations, but like they're not brands. I don't find them as brands. I find them as a quick lick.
That's good. That's Definitely something. I didn't know that was happening with Cardi B, which is crazy. Okay, last thing before we close, talk about just developing both the comfort and the confidence to change or upgrade your bread and butter. Because I'm like, and again, it's one of those things where it's like a very fine line, because something that's always worked for you traditionally, and it's like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it starts to go out of style,
Yeah.
or it's not as effective. But it's a slow bleed. It's a slow leak, right? Like, it's not like the pipes burst and you're like, oh my God, we have an emergency.
Right.
It's like that's easier to know that you got to fix. But that slow leak where it's like, oh, okay, maybe it's just -2, or the numbers are just dropping slightly. It's like, yo, but really it's an indicator that it's not working. Talk about developing the comfort to change, the confidence to change from something that has been your bread and butter.
I think you just can't get emotionally attached to things that you do from a branding and business side because of how much it fluctuates, right? You just have to be okay with there's a time period for everything, for every idea. That doesn't necessarily mean it will last forever. We hope it would. It probably has a very long lifespan, but something that lasts forever isn't necessarily true. Everything transforms into something bigger, right? If you know how to play it right. So when we're starting to see things go down, we have to really measure if this is something that is a temporary wave down, or is this really something that we have to pay attention to? And then always having an idea in the back. Like, I understand ideas have to, like, once they get executed, they're going to die after a while. What is something that once this dies, we can try this, we can bring this to life, we could put all our energy over here. But some people are trying to put those, when somebody has a heart attack or like lost life and they have those pads. Some people are trying to put those pads on too many times. And it's like, yo, let that thing die. It's okay. Like, it's cool. There's something else that you need to put energy to. There was I dealt with this with Instagram. Like, there was a thing where my tweets were working on Instagram for a while, just flat out, just the picture. It was an audience favorite, so I would make a whole row for it. I started seeing that it was slowly not working anymore, and I wasn't emotionally attached to anything that happens when it comes to my brand, because I'm understanding that things evolve and things change constantly. And this just may have been that time is up on this one. What are we going to do? Can we give it a different facelift? So I made the tweet into, I'll bring it back once in a while as a video, just to see how it runs with that, make it into a 7-second video and keep it moving. But like, never in, even with some of the things that we just did with like I2M and the launch of that, I'm not emotionally attached when it is working or if it's not working. I'm not emotionally attached to either of them. It's more of what makes sense. How can we make this last for the long term? How can we enjoy doing what we're doing, as well as serving the people, but as well as seeing the numbers that the people are enjoying it as well. And so never being emotionally attached to the right now and what's working right now. It's more of how many ideas do we have in the tuck for when something doesn't work.
Dang. I just noticed that you don't post the tweets anymore. Like, so you just phased that out. Wow. Wow.
I don't go based off feelings. I go based off numbers. And so the numbers weren't making sense no more. And so I went with what makes sense. So I had to change up my strategy.
That's a good word. Were you looking for a percentage, like a decline, like, oh, it fell off by, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%?
Oh, no, I'm not good at math like that. No, you think very well of me. I'm not good at math like that. No.
Yeah.
But I
That's
saw
how
a
my
dip.
mind works. I'm always thinking in terms of percentage.
Yeah, no, I don't do math like that. I wish I could. That would be great. My facts would be even stronger. However, I saw a dip of just what the average is. I know what my average number is, right? If I can't hit my average week after week, maybe not, some days it won't hit the average, but week after week after week, then I got to look at my game. Like it's me now. It's not the system anymore. It's clearly, this is not working anymore. You're not hitting your average shot every single time.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that you do that bare minimum what the numbers are. If I was to drop this, I know my bare minimum I would make. I always average this. I can't go lower. If I go lower, I'm doing bad, right? And so I was doing bad with that particular type of post, not just overall, but that particular type. And so I just doubled down on what was working and now testing out new things here and there until I can get a solid formula. I'm doing one a days, maybe two, right? I'm not stopping, but I'll go to one and be back in the lab and trying to figure out what's happening, what's not. Let's try this out. What is this day? These people are like, how are they reacting to this? How are they reacting to that? Showing a little bit more of like the podcast, showing a little bit more of the instant updates, things like that, more user generated content. I'm doing this like it's lab time, and that's perfectly fine. And that's a season as well, because once that formula is made, then I'm coming back full blown.
Wow, so much respect for that. No, for real. I definitely respect that, because I think definitely, and that's why I say a lot of these concepts, there's such a thin line for it or between it, because you got to be passionate about what you're doing. Otherwise, you won't believe in it enough to put it out there. Yet you have to not be so emotionally attached that you can't break away or change your strategy from something that you're passionate about when it's no longer working. So it's like, that's literally what I mentioned, or what I mean when, and I think you spoke to it perfect, when I mean is like, how do you develop the comfort and the confidence to change something that was once your bread and butter? It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be a process, just the way in which you used to do something that like always worked for you. It always got you revenue or impact or the thing that you're after in your business. And it's like, nothing stays forever. And I think that's one of those danger zones that we can fall into, where we can be so comfortable or expecting it to be this way for, that's it, just for the future of time. And it's like, well, that's not the case, because for one, we live in a competitive society where people are looking for a way to gain an edge or something like that. But no, I think I love how you put that. That's super dope, super dope, and super dupe. Super dope and very practical too. So we could definitely close on that. That's dope.
Listen, people, hope you enjoyed the conversations. Sorry about the slight tech issues, and shout out to everybody who stayed during it. We love and respect you guys a whole lot. Definitely check out, from an audio standpoint, episode 78. Like, shout out to Kat. I think she's still watching. She was like, yo, I needed this because I'm trying to figure out from a structure standpoint what to do with the brand. I was like, listen, this episode still has me in multiple thoughts of where we're going and things like that. And I still need clarity. I need like a clarity trip or something. So
Whiteboard's right there. I'm just saying.
That's not clarity.
Right there.
That's not a clarity trip. I'm thinking nice view.
I just want to say that
Can we have a nice
live,
view and whiteboard? Nice view and whiteboard.
Well, you could maybe put the Oculus on. That'll give you the nice view. But I got the whiteboard. I just want to say that on live, so you feel a little pressure to be like, all right, fine. I'm gonna go do the whiteboard and get the clarity. But yeah, the whiteboard's right there. The whiteboard is a good clarity. It's a good clarity machine. It does. It tends to do that for people. It gives a nice little.
That or ocean views. Ocean views gives clarity
I can see ocean views working. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a whiteboard person. I don't know. Ocean views are nice, but I think of ocean views as vacation. But whiteboard, you should do the whiteboard. I think the whiteboard is a good move. I'm just obviously trying to.
Can we have a happy medium? Can we have ocean views and whiteboard?
And whiteboards? That's kind of cool. I like that. It's like
that's what I said earlier. I was like, can we do?
Oh, you did say that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's like whiteboarding on the beach. Okay, I'm cool with that. I'm only joking, but no, I'm cool with that.
I'm like, you just want the whiteboard. I'm like, can we get view? I'm the creative one. Right. Remember?
Right.
I'm the creative one. Right. You're the mechanical one. We talked about this in Nipsey's joint. You're the systems and mechanical, not robot. But you know what I mean. I mean.
I'm joking. I'm only being silly. I promise. I'm only being silly. It's cool.
Anyways, we're out, people. Love you guys. Shout out to Todd. He said, peace and love, everyone. We'll just put that all into end everything. Check out the episode. Tomorrow, the new video comes out. You know what we're going to say.
Peace, y'all.